Welcome to The Other 23 Hours, a podcast about recovery, addiction, life in general, and all the things that go with it. Hi, everyone. You're listening to The Other 23 Hours. This podcast that you're about to listen to is from March 10th, 2018, and it's the first podcast that Clementine Willwild and Andrew Breed put together. Enjoy. Thanks.
So we are starting this first recording of the podcast, and we're trying to reach out to people who might have tried traditional recovery options and either found them lacking or felt like they didn't quite fit with their view, or the people weren't welcoming, like any reason. Doesn't matter what the reason is that it didn't work. If it didn't work, you're looking for something more, or you just have a different alternative way of pursuing your own recovery, whatever that looks like for you, then this is the place to come to.
So, I think also that it seems that these days a more holistic approach is not only applicable but necessary. We have just so many different people and ways of doing things and complicated lives.
Right. This isn't the 1930s anymore.
So then I guess we are trying to just open up discussions on what else is possible in the other 23 hours of the day.
Right. How else do you support your own recovery when you're outside of traditional avenues? Like, if you do meetings, what else do you do outside of those? You know, because those are great. You know, if they work for you, cool. And if you use them as a supplement, cool. But I think the idea here is to discuss, look at like a more holistic approach and just have a discussion around it.
So then maybe we can discuss this time also our own experiences of why we want to talk about these different ideas. I mean, from my perspective, I think that it's really important to. I think that you. From my experiences, I'm a person that has a lot of facets to my personality and character. I'm creative, and having multiple options per any time of the day, we'll just say per hour of the day, to support myself is the way that I function best. And I've really, for a long time, being in the rooms and talking to people and with my own recovery efforts, I've really wanted to share and wanted to grow this side of the discussion and try to explore different possibilities, because it's just not really discussed, I think.
No, I think you're right. I know I personally don't like it if someone's just telling me. I don't like to have only one option. So, you know, you go to one specific type of fellowship and they're like, look, this is how we do things. And if you want what we have, this is how you have to do it. And I mean, I know it's the people inside, and it's not necessarily the theology, for lack of a better word, of specific programs to say you will not succeed if you don't do what we're doing, even though that is often the prevailing attitude within them. I think that's why it's important to have outside options, or I guess alternatives, for people who are like myself. And, there's not one way to do anything.
What are some things that... Thanks. What are some things that you employ, or that you like to think about, or that you want to discuss over our time doing this podcast?
Just leave it there.
You can't hear yourself as it's directional mic, so you have to speak into it.
What do I do? Well, I do a lot of things that are either directly or indirectly supportive of, or kind of tangentially related to recovery. So there's certain people that I click with more. So as far as like social activities, chances are I'm not just going to go out willy-nilly with anyone. But I guess as far as like personal things, I mean, integrating yoga and meditation, listening to other podcasts and ideas. I'm the type of person that likes to do research on my own. So, like, for example, the other day on the way to work, I came across a podcast, not a podcast, but it was a YouTube video that was a compilation of different clips from interviews with someone who's been in recovery for a long time. And it was, to me, inspirational. So I personally, what I do is when I'm actually in the moment and I'm having a hard time, or if I even am just doing something mundane, repetitive, like washing dishes, that's a perfect opportunity for me to put on like either a YouTube video or a podcast or something that will kind of plug me into the mindset that recovery is possible. There's other avenues of dealing with my feelings or dealing with external situations that are not coping with these things or trying to change them through the use of, any alcohol or drugs or anything. So for me personally, it's important to be able to tune into something that will push me towards that mindset and be able to like give me some hope and maybe give me some inspiration to keep it going. That I'm still making the right decision by not engaging with that part of my mind that says it's a good idea to go, take a substance to change how I feel, which is, for me, typically how it operates. So, like that. Exercise is a big one too, because that directly, supports balanced neurotransmitters, and it, gives you more dopamine and serotonin. So, not gives you more, but it releases it. So, it's a direct way to change how you feel physically without taking any external substances to have to do that. So it achieves the same result in a much more natural way, and you don't have to, necessarily chase it or do anything that would set you back from where you're trying to go.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the power of plugging into something and being able to change your mindset or remind yourself is huge. And any small moment of the day that you can do that is going to be great to take advantage of to affect the rest of your day. I know that I'm kind of a more structured person, so I kind of think about areas of my life and how to give them a little more structure, but not in a like routine sense. I'm also a really creative person, and I like to do things exciting and challenging, and also, find things that promote that in my life. So when I say give structure, I'm talking about, you were talking about exercise. Art is a big one in my life for having a like personal therapeutic time, and also having skills that I practice, whether that's playing piano or violin or learning the accordion most recently. But basically, there's different areas of my life that I try to create these safe spaces in that I can go to spend time, to work on myself, to remind myself of why I'm doing things, or to just make a little more effort in a direction, and not get sidetracked. I think it's so easy in our society to get sidetracked. It's really hard for me sometimes to put the phone down when Facebook is open for some reason. I don't know why. But especially if I get caught in like a thread of videos and they're all good videos, then I will sit somewhere for a good 20 minutes just looking at videos. And I don't think I'm the only one. So
No, I think you might be the only person that happens to.
hey. So basically, I really appreciate. I think that's really important what we're doing, because we are offering our ideas and things that we've discovered, and talking about them and exploring them in a way that allows people to listen in and decide for themselves what would be a good way to structure their own other 23 hours of the day, and what kind of areas of support they need. And these are really good questions to ask, and I don't know if they really get much. I don't know if they get asked that much. How can you create more support from your friends, or what kind of activities facilitate a type of therapy for you? How do you get into a different mindset? And what is the role of diet and exercise in maintaining, your recovery, and just so many different avenues to explore.
Right. And that, like we talked about before, that goes outside of the traditional support groups, if you will, that are available, and that often, they're great. They do facilitate recovery, and they're more recovery focused. However, there are still 23 more hours in the day that are not spent at a meeting typically. So I think I like what you said about changing the mindset, because oftentimes, using is about changing. For me anyways, it was oftentimes about changing the way I felt. So a lot of times if I was feeling overwhelmed with external situations in life, that would be a cause for me to use, because, okay, I'm overwhelmed. I can't deal with this. How do I change it? And it's just a coping mechanism, really. Now, it's a very simplistic way of looking at it because there's a lot going on when it comes to addiction. There's an emotional component, the ritualistic component, the social aspect of it, the own inner relationship that you have with the whole process of, chasing, getting money, obtaining it, using it. So it's a multifaceted experience, which, it makes it difficult because this is why I think it's important to have something like this, because you can't just address one aspect of it and think that that's all you have to do. Even for the people who do go to meetings, there's a lot of work that's done outside of that to facilitate a broader recovery that's sustainable long term, because there's no one right answer either. So we're not condoning or supporting any one method of recovery. Really, the biggest issue is finding something that works for yourself and just going with it. If it works, if it's not broke, don't break it. And if it works, keep doing it.
Yeah. So I guess we're probably at about the end of our time, just for now. And I think we kind of went over most of the points, especially for why we feel it's really important to have this podcast that we're doing.
I really hope that if you listen to this, you probably should have a pretty good idea about why we're doing this by now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, essentially, this is hopefully reaching an audience that is probably frustrated with the amount of attention given to the rest of their day and how they're functioning. And this is, outside of 12 steps too, because that is a program that you can do that, kind of goes into the other parts of your life and how you're functioning it is more of a holistic manner. It depends on how you're working it, who you're working it with, if you're doing it spiritually or not. And, lots of people have different ideas on this. And I think it actually will be really interesting to explore that in a future podcast. But that's not this one. So I guess what I'm saying is that, outside of those, what are the other things you can do? And I think we've hit on a couple of them, but we'll go into it more in our future podcasts. If you have anything that you'd like us to talk about, maybe go ahead and comment, or you can send us maybe an email or something, and I'll get that email to you and maybe the description below.
Yeah, we'll end up putting email and social media contacts in the description for this, so you can reach out to us and let us know what you think. Give us some feedback, what you want to hear about, and we'd love to hear about what you do. Because there's a lot of people who don't make it to the traditional venues, who don't either have the option to, or it doesn't really fit for them personally, or they just don't have. I don't want to say. I don't want to qualify it. So there's no. The degree, there's different degrees of how bad it gets. But if you have an issue that is less apparently severe, maybe, or overtly so, this is for anyone who has an issue that they want to change with themselves. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't even have to be... Right. It doesn't. We don't have to qualify it at all. It's just that if this jives with you, you want to know more, then continue to listen in, because we're gonna go over as much as possible. We're very curious creatures, and we also care about getting different perspectives and learning, why certain things work for some people and not others. And so, yeah, we're definitely interested in hearing your thoughts and your own experiences as much as you want to share, and your ideas for what could be, part of your other 23 hours. What do you do? And we'll see you on future podcasts.
Yeah, that's perfect. Get at us.